Hi, I'm Baz. This is I Sharpen, and today I'm going to do something pretty brutal. This is the SJ250 Japanese 4000 grit waterstone, and it's pretty useless. But what I do is I use the edges of it, the rounded edges of it, in order to sharpen serrated knives. Right? I just use the edge there, and it sort of, I do it backwards, so I'm standing where you're standing, and I just rock the edges like that on the corners and get right into the grooves with a nice, beautiful, shiny 4000 grit finish, and it makes them slide through paper far more effective. Now, but what happens is, of course, it's soft, these are sharp, and eventually it rounds it off and it becomes too big a radius to fit into the coves. So what I have to do is remove it. Now, these radiuses, or radii, are too big at the moment, so I'm going to have to take off. This is pretty brutal, so look away if you're squeamish. I'm going to have to take off probably about 7 or 8 millimeters. Now, if you've never seen somebody dress a bluestone, then you're in for a treat, or a cringe. One way or the other, it's going to happen. So I'm pretty brutal. I go really in deep. This one has, I touched the diamond tip to the surface, and I've lowered it 2 numbers. So this is what that looks like. Hopefully. Feel free to use your video controls to double the speed, but I'm going to leave it at real time so that some of you who want to see it at real time can get a feel for how fast I'm going. Now, when I'm going in super deep like this, I don't go very fast, but you know, time is on my side, and I'm going to have to go all the way down to the side wall and then build a nice little radius that I can get into the coves with. So grab a beverage and a smoke, and enjoy the sounds. This wheel is very low, currently sitting at about 210 millimeters. They start off at 250, and they can usually be used down to about 200 or 190 before all these knobs and the wheels start getting in the way of the low hanging handles, usually on carving knives and things like that. Where the handle is high, like on a chef knife, it'll clear, but that doesn't always happen. These are expensive wheels in Australia. They're $650, and I don't know whether or not I've managed to make a profit on this wheel. I'll make a good profit on the other wheel, so I'm okay. This is like a sacrificial, but I use it to make the serrated knives super sharp, as I've shown in some of the other videos. If you go back to my homepage on YouTube, on a desktop, you'll find a search bar. Click that little magnifying glass and enter the word serrated, and you'll see how I use it. I'll try to go a little bit faster. Now, usually I use the outside part of the wheel. So it can go pretty low. I'll be able to use this for another couple of turns. And so I suppose, you know, I may have done easily a dozen, more than a dozen serrated knives. So that kind of pays for itself. I charge a little bit extra for serrated knives because they're such a fiddly little item. They take extra time. So it may have paid for itself, but what it does do is provide super sharp serrated service, which kind of pays for itself because usually people bring other knives as well. This morning I'm doing a set of globals, so all in all it works out fine, economically speaking. Now this is the old dressing tool, TT50. I haven't got the new one yet, although I'm thinking of buying one because it looks like an improvement. This one rattles around a fair bit. I've checked the tips though, and it seems to have lasted all those wheels. And when I got it, it was part of my first Tormek machine, so it was used for many years before that, so it's been a good tool. Now with these SJ250 wheels, the big complaint is that it crumbles as it comes off the edge, because they're such a soft wheel that because I'm digging in so hard, as it gets to the edge it just breaks the edge up. But that's okay for me because, well, the way around it is to get nearly to the edge and then lift the wheel, the tool, and bring it in from the edge, and that sort of stops it. But that only matters if you need a sharp edge, and I don't. I actually want a radius edge, so that problem actually works in my favor, or at the very least it's not a problem. Okay, that's one pass. Now it's not enough. I've got to go all the way down because that radius is still there, too fat. So I'm going to come down another 2 numbers. 1, 2. Normally it's only suggested you come down 1 number or half a number at a time, but you know, CBF. Going a little bit faster now, but it's really taking, I'm seeing a lot of, I don't know if you can see that, but it's really sprinkling pieces, it's chunking pieces off. Still feels pretty smooth though. Normally people, because they're so expensive these wheels, they treat them with kid gloves, but brutality can be fun. Very hot today. We've got a heat wave coming up, so I really can only sharpen in the mornings because the sun comes bearing through there. It'll be like an oven in here later this afternoon. Did you see that clip from one of the Baz knife buyers? He's a chef, and he was slicing through a large rump. So go and check that out. And this video, like all of them, is sponsored by the Baz knife, which is a beautiful rosewood handled chef knife that I had made for me. It's VG10. It has beautiful Damascus layers. It's quite stiff and very broad, and it's about 8.3 inches long. It's got a nice Japanese sort of a, what's the word? Like a bunker sort of a cut off there. I like it. It's a great design. It's got 45 degrees for the pinch grips, and it's a beautiful knife. If you want one, look in the description. There'll be an email address. You can contact me and I'll sell you one. I've got many left. I've sold all the 70s, I'm sorry. 70 is the best score. The lower the number, the better. But I've got plenty of 80s and some 90s, and anything under 150 is great. Anything under 100 is amazing. And all of them are guaranteed to be 99 or better. Thank you for the support of everyone who's buying them. Now, where are we up to? Alright, so let's come down another 2. I had a comment the other day on a video where a viewer wanted to know how I started the sharpening business, how I got started, how I market it, all those things. If you want to know, I can make a video about it. Leave a comment below, and if enough of you want to know, I think it's a bit boring and kind of a little bit obvious to me, but I do have some tricks and tips to how to get cranking, and I'll be happy to share those. I'm also thinking of starting a membership to the channel where people pay a few cents or a few dollars per month and get access to discounts. They can request a personal movie. I do live sessions exclusively for members. I can maybe make more videos. Let me know what would you be willing to pay for? I mean, I'm hoping that the discount on, say, for example, a Baz knife would pay for itself. But if you're a sharpener, there are some things that I don't like to say publicly, but I'll say privately into the group. You know, like, well, I've got to be for the group to realise what it is. But I'm more than happy to share, and I like the idea of a small monthly income, but generally I'm aiming that at people who are starting a sharpening business or are really into sharpening. They might be interested in a membership. Let me know if you're interested. Lowering at another 2 full numbers. Starting to get smaller now. Chili's lying down there as usual. He's on the floor. It's so hot already. And I might finish this video off with a demonstration of how I use it to sharpen serrated knives. So if you're interested in that, stick around. I should be finished in a few minutes, won't take that long. I'll have to change the water, of course. That was quicker. How long did that take? About a minute. So another 2 numbers. Going a bit faster now. Don't know why. But before I was turning it with pretty much a lot of force and it wasn't going through much faster. But for some reason it's going through faster now. So is this worthwhile? Let's do some mathematics. So I think, like I said, I'm probably a little bit shy on that number of how many serrateds I've done. It feels like I'm probably getting, let's say, 10 knives before I have to radius again. And if it takes me 5 mil, or say 5 mil every time, then I can do maybe 10 times 10. So that's maybe 100 serrated knives I can use the edges on, plus a couple of shiny bits, but that doesn't really pay much money. Nobody has ever asked me to polish their bevel and want to pay for it. So all the shiny bevels that I've done so far have been just for my own enjoyment. So 100 extra knives at, say, about 25 bucks I charge for a serrated, which I know is a bit expensive, but the results I get are worth it. So 2 more full numbers. So if you do the maths on that, what's that? 100 times 20, see? Pays for itself. And a bit of profit as well. And that's at 20 bucks, let alone 25. Now 25 Australian is probably about maybe $15, $16 American. I know that I normally charge 20 bucks a knife to sharpen, and that's about $12 US. So I'm around about the world mark. Not that expensive. There are some local guys around here who use belt sanders in their vans and that sort of thing, and that's fine, but I find that their finish and their attention to detail is not really as high as mine is. But you know, if it's cheap, $5 or $6 a knife, then might give the chefs a few hours of sharpness. I was thinking of starting a knife rental business, but the model that Dr. Vadim used to use, RIP, on his Knife Grinders Australia, if you go to his website and look up knife renting, it seems a bit complicated to me. I'm trying to figure out a simpler way of doing it. Another 2 numbers now. Getting close to the edge, but still there's a couple of flat spots, as you can see. I might bring you in a bit closer. It's Saturday morning as I'm recording this. My water is very blue. We're nearly there. I reckon 2 more runs, maybe 3. And like I said, as long as I can access this edge, which I can, I'm good. So I might even be able to use this wheel down to much lower than 200. We'll see how far it goes. When the edge starts crumbling, I'll stop the machine, I'll bring you in and you can see what that crumbling looks like in case you're curious. Alright, down another 2 numbers. This may seem like a waste, but it makes serrated knives so easy. Well, for me anyway, there might be better ways. Cliff from Curry Custom Cutlery, he makes these fantastic makes available these fantastic little thin CBN wheels, and I'm hoping to buy a full set of those because they may help, but I want it to be super fine, and I want to buy the full set. There's 3 of them. Might be my first foray into CBN wheels. We'll see. And I'm going to keep going down. I'll show you in a minute. Alright, you see here, now there's a little bit, half of it's nearly done. Let's stop, let's have a look. Well, there you go, you got some cracking already. But this is sharp. This is sharp. This is sharp, but here we have radius still. So there's a little bit of radius there. So I reckon a couple more passes and we'll start to, and then I'll lower it by 1 number, do a fine pass, and we're good. Look how rough that is. I am brutal. Another 2 numbers. And I can't think of another way to do this. I suppose if there was a way to face the side, I could keep the diameter and just make the wheel more and more narrow. But I can't think of a way to do that. Can you? It's getting a bit hard to turn. I'm not sure if I'm running out of diamond or what's going on. Might have to lube it up a bit. Give it a squirt with some WD, you reckon? Oh, big chunk came off then. That was a big old chunk. Oh, hopefully you can see that. Yeah. I'll zoom in a bit in editing. But now, how are we going on that? Still have quite a fat little radius there. I'm going to come down another, let's just try 1. No, I'll go another 2. And that should get rid of everything. Now, there's still a little bit there. Oh, I forgot to lubricate. Oh, that's like a soup in there now. Okay, I reckon I'll come down just one number this time. And see if that does anything. Close enough, I reckon. I'll give it one more and finish up coming in, and that'll be it. And I'll do that one slowly in case I want to use the face for shining up a blade or something at some point. Maybe touching up one of the Baz knives. This worked really well on the ceramic knife video. Did you guys see that? The smashed ceramic knife video. These are almost essential for sharpening a ceramic knife. So, you know, but they're just so expensive. Look for second-hand ones. There's a used one on for sale in Australia at the moment, but I don't think they're willing to ship. I think instead of $650, the guy wants like $400. Now I paid. I bought this one second-hand used. One of my first videos when I first started, when I got this on the channel that was cancelled. So it's lasted a very long time. Right, one more number. Let's have a look first. This is a soup. Well, before I refine it, I would like to show you that edge a little bit closer. So I'm going to take the camera off. Go to macro setting and bring it in real close. Right, so you can see that edge, how it crumbles away. Right, and people hate that. They thought it was a major flaw, but you know, perspective is a great thing. Yeah, it's a pretty big chunk there. But I'll soon make that into a radius. Now, this one's going to be a little bit slower, so bear with me. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your support. And there are people buying Baz knives purely to support the channel, which is just fantastic. I'm not quite sure, but I suspect that I have the best viewers and subscribers on YouTube. Certainly all the people who have emailed me have been fantastic, kind, generous, normal. Now these edges are too sharp to use on a serrated, so I'm going to use the normal stone to give them a bit of a radius like I do on all my wheels. And that will give me a nice finish to get right into the coves. Whereas I mentioned before, it was too fat a radius, and I could really only touch the tips. The backs were okay because I could angle the knife and get onto the backs, but the inner cove is where I really want to be. I used to say no, I don't do serrated knives. I used to say no, I don't do scissors. But now, I don't say no. All right. So, I'm going to go and clean that up. Oh, no, we'll keep working it. Might as well use the water as it's already kind of destroyed, and give those edges a nice little radius. So I'll grab my stone. In fact, what I like to do is lower this down and use it as a stop for the stone. Oh, what's my radius now? Oh, it's a good 195. So how much did I lose? A fair bit. So by stop I mean I'll just rest the stone on there and just tilt it gently. Nice. And obviously the stone pushing the wheel pushing the stone against the rest gives it the force that it needs to stay in there. And of course I get 2 goes at this. What I mean by that is that I can use this edge, and then when this has gotten too fat I can always turn it around and use this edge. And this fine edge now can also get into little Spyderco's EDCs, and I can do them very small, but only limited while the radius is this small. Alright, let's just smooth it out a bit. Still sounds a bit rough. This is my abusive stone. I still have 2 of these pretty immaculate ones. So this is what they recommend to smooth the stone out with as well. And this turns it back into a beautiful, super smooth Japanese wheel. See, I can't hear anything now. No bumps left. And that is a beautifully dressed wheel. I'm going to wash it, clean it all up, and bring you back in to have another closer look. So by the magic of editing, we'll be back in a second. Just before I go, I wanted to show you how thick this is. Look at that. That is thick. Nice. Chili. Okay, that's all nice and cleaned. I'll bring you in closer so you can have a good inspection of that. So, you can see the radius off the top there. Same on both sides. Nice and clean. And I just dressed it a little bit with some 2000 grit wet and dry, and that cleans it up, and that's beautiful, nice little radius there for me to use. But I'm not going to use it on this machine. I'm going to put it onto that machine because I do the serrated knives edge trailing. Unscrew it. Oops. Take the tray off. Bring it over here. Now I should mention, when this radius becomes too fat, I swap it over to this one, and I have to turn the wheel around. But because of this offset in here, you need a washer up against there in order to pull it away from the machine. Oh, I wonder what that little knob does. So I'm going to put it the right way this time. Pop this tray in, which I prepared earlier. And, you know, I'm curious, what is the final diameter there? Ooh, that turned out to be about 195. Not too bad. That'll be useful for a while. Okay. Now this is how I do it. So here we have a global. I've already sort of touched it, and you can see, I don't know if you can see the silvery edge on the back there, but the coves remain sort of untouched. So I'm going to bring you in a bit closer, and I'll show you. So the wheel is spinning that way, and I just lay it in there. Now, if you press hard, this, I could radius this to useless with one knife. So you've got to keep a light touch. Just, see, rock it a little bit, pause on the tip, rock it a little bit, pause on the tip. You can feel and hear a few little bumps, but that doesn't matter. And this way I can get into the full cove. I'm using quite a steep angle because I really only want to do the edges. Or not too. If I press hard, I can actually pull a burr on this side, which means I'm really grinding it hard, but you don't have to do that. Only if they're really damaged, then of course then you're going to really damage the wheel. Now, does this work on the SJ wheel? Sorry, on the SG wheel, the normal grey wheel? Yes, that's what I first started using, but it's way too coarse. I mean, I tried smoothing it out with 1000 grit diamond plates, but it was, even then it was still too coarse, way too coarse. Now, had I put a larger radius on this, it would be fitting nicely and I wouldn't have to rock it. But then it wouldn't fit the smaller coves on a smaller knife. So this way I get to use, by moving the knife against the radius, I can get in there Let's have a look. See that little shiny? That's all you need. You don't have to do the whole cove all the way down and make it mirror. No, all you need is that right on the edge. Then I turn it over and I do the back. Now I'm not aiming to apex or prove that there's an apex with a burr. Just trying to clean it up a little bit, and that's generally all it needs. And sometimes I'll lay it flat on the wheel and work those peaks a little bit. I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. I do this. And this. And that just gives those peaks just a little edge. And sometimes I even run it fast. Not sure if that does anything. But that should be ready, theoretically speaking. Right, so that little shiny edge, that's all I need. You can see the tips have been worked just a little bit. Very gentle. See that silvery top? That's the Japanese wheel, giving it just a nice little edge. So let's test it. Nice. That's perfect. Ready for the customer. All right. So that is everything. How I trim the wheel, how I radius the wheel, how I use the wheel, and the effect that it has. I hope that was helpful to you. If not, amusing. If not, horrifying. Whatever. You've been entertained. So thank you very much. And don't forget, if you want a Baz knife, there's only a few left in this batch, but I'll get more batches. So, you know, I don't want to create any false urgency. But they're beautiful, man. Grab a Baz knife, get it in your kitchen, send me an email, tell me what country you're in, and I'll give you my best price. And I always mail express. All right, so you'll get it very quickly. Thanks for watching. See you next time.